Okay, so I have a few friends that have come over and come into my shop, and I've walked them through making an ink pen kit, turning a pen, and they do it. They do real well and make a nice pen here, and then at the end of the day, they call back up a few days later and say, hey, I'm missing a step here. How did we do this? I don't remember. And basically, it's boiled down to, hey, would you make a video for us that just outlines the steps? This is not a flashy video by any means. This is just a video to show you the steps on how to do these so you get them in the right sequence, and maybe some techniques you can do here. Maybe you've developed some of your own that you'd rather use. But anyway, let's real quickly talk about the equipment. If you notice down here, I've got a little jet lathe, great lathe, super lathe, works wonderful, and I can take it with me if I want to, or move it to the bench top if that's what I want to use. It's super good for making pens. Here I've got a real old 1960s something or other, great big full-size lathe. I don't know, it does maybe 35, 38 inch stuff. I had a buddy of mine at the college rebuilt the clutch on it. It is as smooth as silk. I love to build my pens on this big old girl. So if somebody tells you you have to have a small lathe to do this, they're wrong. You can do it on this. And for today's video, we're using this one to show you just how well it works. One of the features, we do have to change the speed every now and then. This guy has a crank handle. I can adjust the speed right on the fly. That's what Calvin rebuilt for me. This guy here, I've got to change the belts on it, move them to different spots. So pick your poison, whichever one you like. One of the first things you're going to need to do is pick out a pen kit that you're going to want to build. Those styles vary from a click style like this. They have them twist styles as well. They have the Duraclicks, so on. They're knurled, they're real hard, acrylic type tube there on that, a gold finish on it, whatever style. They have gun style, the bolt clips. They have hundreds of styles you can pick from. I will put a little plug in here for Penn State Industries. So far they've made the best pen kit that I can find. I've purchased them downtown at a wood store, and finish wears off. The clicks they stick after a while. They're just, I'm just not happy with them. So I like Penn State Industries. Go online, you can find them, pick through hundreds of different styles, and kits and everything are available. So when we get into here, we look at a kit that we want to use, and we got the books with the Penn State Industries going on here, and I don't know, probably 50 or 60 different kits that I can pick from. Today, I'm going to be turning this guy here, one of these. Let me walk up here where you can see it. EDC, Everyday Carry pen. It's a Duraclick style. They've been great. They're my favorite pens so far to use and to carry. They work and they last. Okay, so this is two of them there. This is another one somewhere else. We're going to build one of those today. After we picked out our pen kit, an EDC kit, we got to pick out some wood or something to make the pen with or out of. If I look in this kit, I've got all kinds of different stuff to pick from. Let's see if I can tilt this up a little bit. There we go. I've got all kinds that I can pick from. Now I've got all different kinds of wood. I've got koa wood, Hawaiian wood. I've got deer antler I can use as well. Any kinds of wood you want. And you can use the acrylic or the plastic stock as well if you want. Process is going to be the same no matter which one you pick out. Word of caution, if you use a soft wood, you probably should have it stabilized, impregnated with a resin that keeps it from flaking apart, makes a much better, more durable pen, easier to finish. Today, we're going to use some Brazilian cherry. It's real hardwood to begin with. I don't need it impregnated, but this one, I don't need it stabilized, but this piece is, and it has absolutely beautiful grain running through it. So we're going to use this guy to see what he comes out like, all right? So we've got our machine picked out, which one we're going to use. We have a pen kit. We've got a block of wood that we're going to use. Now let's get started on this process. Okay, one of the first steps that we need to do on this guy is read the directions here, and it's telling us we need to use an 8mm drill bit on here to drill a hole down through the blank. I like this. This has been a great tool for me to use. A self-centering pen drilling vise. I literally put my blank in here, clamp that guy down, put him in the drill press, drill right down through the center, and I've got my hole running end to end on here. Real nice. It works real good. Before I bought this, shoot, I'd use a crescent wrench or a pair of those cabinet hanging clamps, a Miro Moose. By the way, those are American made, good quality. Minnesota, I believe, is where they're made out of. Get that hole drilled. Then you need to get your blank, your pen blank that comes in this kit. Be sure it is roughed up. If it came roughed up, you're good to go. If not, use some sandpaper, get it good and roughed up so the glue will stick to it. Use some epoxy. I like epoxy because I know it's going to hold. It takes a little more time to do it, but use some epoxy, get it mixed up, put it down inside your blank, inside the hole of your blank, and then slide your tube down inside that hole. Let it set up. I always let them set overnight. They work great setting them up overnight. If you're in a hurry and you want to do something faster, you can always take some super glue, put the super glue on here and down inside your blank, put it inside, spray the ends with this activator, and it will make it set up and grab a hold and cure a whole lot faster. You could do that way in about an hour. The other way, like I said, I like to let it be overnight. So I've already done one blank. I've already drilled the hole. I put my tube down inside. It's been glued with epoxy. I did that last night. This guy's really all set up to go to get him on our wood lathe. Before we get to the lathe, we have to trim this wood off. If you can see down inside there, that tube is way down past the end of the wood. We've got to trim this wood all the way down till we just get to that tube on both sides. So we need a barrel trimming kit. This guy here works pretty well. I did get him at the wood store downtown. You can get expensive ones. I think this one was about $40. We're going to use him to trim the end of this wood to get it right down to that barrel. What we have to do is find the right kind of a guy that fits inside here. That guy's the right one. I happened to grab him first, but you can see he's made for a different barrel. And different sizes for different barrel diameters. This guy's way too small. So we're going to use this guy here. He's going to be my trimming guide that goes down inside this blank in here. Okay, and then we're also going to need the trimmer part itself. We will take it and put it on here. Got a little set screw right here. Just put him together like you should. Snug him down. All right, now we're ready to go to the vise. We are going to have to hold this guy still. I can use my pen vise, but I'm going to just show you another method that I use using a standard old crescent wrench. And let's go ahead and trim this guy down. Okay, I've got my blank of wood with the tube inside of it. My cutter's installed into my drill press, and I'm going to want to get this guy to come down here and cut that wood off till we just hit the edge of that tube. Sometimes you'll see just a little bit of brass filings coming out and you know you've got it, but you want to get it just exactly right. If you don't get this piece right, if that's too short, then your pen tip sticks out too far. If it's too long, then your pen tip then does not stick out far enough. So you're going to want to make sure that this tube ends up being the correct length as per your instructions. You might want to use a caliper to measure it when you're all done. Okay, let's turn this thing on. Let's get it going. Okay, can't hold that one with my fingers, so we're going to use the wrench. Okay, we're just going to turn him back on. There we are. Real easy way to do it. And we're simply going to cut it until we get real close to that tube, that brass tube. Now if you look inside here, you can see that I've just bumped up against that brass. This side here, you can't see the brass, he's down in there too far. Alright, so we're going to do this side next. Quite there yet. Just got to it. Not quite. A little more. There we go. Alright, let's take a look at him. Okay. We've got him down to the shoulder. You can see that down inside there. Just the barely the brass. Same thing on the other side. Now another trick with this is if you put a whole lot of epoxy in there and you slide that tube in, that tube's going to fill up with epoxy. It's going to make this really hard to go down inside there. You can overheat that tube when you're doing this process, melt the glue so to speak, and break it all loose. You don't have to throw it away and start over again. So minimize the amount of glue that goes down inside that tube. We now have to set this piece of blank up on a pen mandrel so we can get it inside of our lathe. And what we need to do now is dig our mandrel out. I've got a couple different ones in here, but they all function about the same way. That's what our pen mandrel will look like. It's going to go in the vise or in the lathe. With this pen kit, you need to have the correct bushings that work for this pen kit. This one here, these bushings right here are for this kit, and only for this kit. They are designed to go inside the tube on one end, and the other bigger shoulder is where you are going to lay this down to. That sets this thickness right here. Obviously, if you don't go down far enough, you got a big fat end right here. If you go down too far, you're actually going to cut into the brass. So this and these bushings are specific to this pen only. You're going to find some of these little spacers in here. They're kind of nice, so you can keep your wood away from the parts of the mandrel so your tool doesn't hit it. So that guy's going to go inside there. We're going to have this bushing go inside there. Another spacer, and there's our nut to crank all this stuff down nice and tight. Now we're ready to put this thing in the vise. In the lathe. You know that. I keep saying vise. I don't know where that's coming from. Alright, so we got this guy ready to go. We're going to slide him into the wood lathe there on one end, like that, into the driving end of it. This guy here, this tailstock, we need to get a new piece in here. Let's get this guy driven out. Tap him out gently. And we're going to put a live center here on this end. He's going to go into the hole of that mandrel. We're going to get him down here pretty close. We'll snug him up. And we will run the live center then down inside the end of the mandrel to hold it nice and steady. Snug it up as well. I like to make sure that that nut is plenty tight. If it's not tight, your wood's going to slip on you a little bit. So I gently use a pair of pliers, hold on to my lathe or spin my lathe a little bit, and that should hold it pretty tight. It's just a little tighter than I can do with my fingers. Let's turn this thing on, see if it flies out and hits us in the teeth. Now I know the one end was a little bit off center. That's why the wobble is there, but as I'm lathing this out, we should be fine. Should come out just fine. So let me get a tool rest here. Use a small one. I'm going to get that tool rest right where we need it. And we'll spin this guy around to make sure we're okay. All right. We're going to start spinning this here in just a second. Let me get a couple of tools out here, and then we'll show you what we could be using. Okay, some of these are the latest and greatest. This is a woodpecker brand. I've been real happy with woodpeckers, but they're the carbide tipped ones. Man, I'll tell you what a difference. I really like the carbide tipped ones. I think everybody's going this direction. I have some full-size ones too, but these are made a little smaller for ink pens. And I really like them. There's good control. They cut wonderfully well. We're going to use this guy to do most of our gouging, most of our rough work. You may see me use him from time to time just to straighten out a ridge or draw a better straight line for me. So let's get going on this guy. Let's turn him on. We're going to use the round one first. I'd like my speed up a little bit higher. All right. Now you saw that. That just simply comes from this nut being not tight enough. Now I may need to use a little wrench to hold this guy here real still. Let's see if I have one here. Oh, it's too big. Old school adjustable. Okay, that'll hold him. Snug him up a little bit more. And with any luck at all, that'll stop him from slipping like that. If you look at this wood, we want this wood to be the same diameter as this outer bushing that we have. This side here is really close. This side here still has a little ways to go. And then the inside of the pen, we can conform that to however we want, as long as we don't go so thin as to hit the tube that's inside here. So we're going to gently work this guy down until we get right up to that tube diameter, that bushing diameter. And once I'm there, I am free to make the pen look however I like on either, in between either end. So if I want a big pen with a cigar-like shape on it, I'm about there. However, I don't care for that style, so I like mine more traditional, more straight. I'm just going to work on mine until it gets nice and straight across there and has the contour look that I like. What I would like to see is, what does this thing look like? Let's turn this off. Get an idea of what this pen is going to look like. Wow, that is beautiful. I love that. That's better than I even thought. So, are my ends where they need to be? Pretty good. I've gotten real fat here real quick. I want to get some of that off of there. This is all up to you on how you want to do it. I like this piece of wood so much, I'm not going to risk using these tools. I'm going to get it down to the final contour by using some, I might start with 100 grit paper and go to 220 after that, sandpaper. Okay, I'm going to start out with 100 grit. We're going to move to 220. This 100 grit's going to really just get rid of some of those spots I don't like here and start to bring this thing to a finish, if you will, and then we're going to finish it. All right, she's looking really pretty, really pretty. Like, could be one of the prettiest ones I've done. You're going to see some straight lines through here that the sandpaper leaves behind. There's really only one way to get those out, and that's to simply sand it sideways. You have to do this by hand. It's time consuming. We're going to do a bunch of this during our finishing process, but this is really the only way you're going to get those out. Then you can lightly go back with the machine on, sand it again. You want to look for any of those. Believe me, anything you leave behind right now, any line, don't think you're going to cover that up. You're not. It will show through. I guarantee it. I've tried to cheat it so many times. You've got to get those lines out of here. Any circular lines, you got to get them out by hand. Same thing when we put the finish on it. So I'm going to continue to do this until I have it about the way I'd like it. Very lightly at this point. We don't want to put more marks back in here. Very, very lightly. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. Looking really nice. I see a little bit right here I don't like. I'm going to keep working on this pen ever so lightly. I may get some different sandpaper and sand some more of those real fine marks out of here. The camera may not even be picking these up. They are so slight. But I want them gone. I want them gone. If I don't do it now, they do not come out. Okay, so I've sanded everything out of it. I'm real happy with the way it's turned out. I've really scrutinized every little piece. I made sure that I get all as much sanding dust out of there as we can, because when we put the finish on here, if there's sawdust or sanding dust on here, it will stay in here. It will not come out at this point. So we want to be sure we're really clean. I don't know, there's probably 50 different finishes you could put on it. One of the favorite, hands down the favorite for me, is to use some CA glue. Essentially, it's super glue. I like the medium finish, the medium thickness, I should say. And it works well. It's always worked well. It's given me a wonderful finish on any of the pens that I've done. This can be, you got to take your time with this, or you'll be sanding for a week. This stuff is so hard. In order for this glue to dry fast, we need to use an activator on here. Alright, so we're going to use a CA glue, super glue essentially, and we're going to put it on here. Now, I have used this for quite some time. This is just a blue paper towel, shop towel, pretty much lint free. That's really important. We don't want lint sticking to this. And I'm going to use it to apply the super glue. Then I'm going to spray it with the activator. I'm going to wait a minute or so for it to activate and to cure. I'm going to keep putting layers on until I'm where I want to be, and then I'm going to go back and start sanding and polishing it. But for now, let's just start putting this super glue on here, and then we can take it from there. All right, here we go. You want your speed on slow so the super glue doesn't go flying all over the place. So we're going to slow this guy way down. Some activator out of here. I'm going to back you up just a little bit. Whoa! Come on. That'll work. Okay. This will get hot. Don't throw it in a trash can. When you're done with it, throw it on the floor or on the countertop somewhere. Keep an eye on it. It can get hot. And I don't know if it'll start a fire or not, but it will start smoking. So here we go. We're just going to dribble it on here, and we're going to move this to smear it around with. Once you've got it on there, just leave it alone. You don't need to work it back and forth. We're going to hit it with an activator, and now we're going to let it set a minute or two, and we're going to keep doing that process over and over again. Okay, so I put the last coat on there. I gave it a good healthy dose of activator. Let's go ahead and turn it off, take a look at it, see what we're looking at. Definitely has a lot of super glue on it. Looks like it's finished real good. You're going to feel ridges in here. You're going to see some ridges in here. You're going to see some heavy spots, some light spots. We're going to get all that out. Now, I don't like stuff all over my lathe. I don't know. I'm picky with my stuff. Whatever you want to say, go ahead. Unnecessary. We're going to wet sand this, so I don't want water on my lathe. I'm that way. So let's get a good look at our sanding stuff. So these are the sanding pads that I use. And I've marked those with the 1 dot. That's the one I start with, and 2 and 3 and 4, and I finish up with this guy. Super fine. Feels like a piece of paper, maybe glossy paper even. I don't know, 3,000 grit maybe. We're going to use these. Now these are wet sanding pads, so we're going to start with the brown one and move on up, and we're literally going to sand these. Before I can start with these, don't start with them right away, because you're not going to get those ridges out until you sand sideways. We're going to start right there first. I got my 220 grit. Still going to use some of it. Find a clean spot on it, and we're just going to start sanding that. You can see it in there now. All those ridges that are in there. We got to get them all out. If we don't get them out, that pen's not going to be pretty when we're done. And let's take a look at what she looks like. Wow, that is absolutely beautiful. Let me get a real tight shot on this so you can see the grain on here. There it is. All right, get a good look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. That's going to be the center part of our pin. All right, woo! The hard work's over. A few little things left to do, then we'll start pressing the pieces on here and we'll have a new pen. Okay, we've made it this far. Let's take a review a little bit about what we did when we did it really fast. We took a pen blank, right? We mated it up with our pen kit that we wanted and our instructions in here. We drilled the proper size hole in here. We scuffed up the tube. We glued it inside the pen blank, wood or acrylic, whatever one you want to use. Let it cure, let it set. We put that thing in our mandrel, clamped it down tight using the bushings that are made specifically for that pen. You can't just use any bushing. You got to use the ones made for that pen. We put those bushings in here, clamped it, put it in the vise. We've used the lathe tools at different speeds to cut it down to where we wanted it, matching the thickness of our tube to the end of the bushing here as well. We got down to that point, we sanded it down with just some regular sandpaper, crossed the grain this way, side to side, got rid of all that. Then we did some wet sanding on it. We took it all off the lathe. We ended up with a pen blank that looks a lot like, well, look, this is it. This is it when it's all done. So we've gotten to this point. Now what we need to do is a few more finishing touches to it before we can press it together. Okay, let's get started on that. Okay, when you get done making this and you've taken it off the mandrel, and man, that's looking beautiful. I can't wait to put this one together. You're going to get some super glue flashing on the ends, rough spots, maybe a thick buildup, something like that. It's going to happen on both ends. You're going to want to take a piece of sandpaper, lay it on something flat, and you know, some people say do it in a figure eight, whatever. You're just going to sand off that roughness down here so it mates up to this really nicely, okay? So let's work on that a minute. We'll do some on one end. It comes right off. This is a 220 grit sandpaper. You can use something, 400 grit or even better if you want. I wouldn't go any more abrasive than 220. And we want to take a good look at that. Be sure that that smooths up. That looks really good already. Just a smidget bit more, and then we'll do the other end. It's important you hold it straight up and down. If you sand it sideways, you're going to get a hollow spot in it. Just do it lightly. It'll come right off. That super glue will come right off. And there we go. That's all it took for this guy right here. Be critical of your work. Get a good look at it. Because if you don't get it right, anywhere along the way, it will show. I guarantee it, especially by your critical eye. Other people may not notice it. All right, this blank now is ready for assembly. What I really like about the Penn State Industries kits, they almost always give you a picture of how things go together, how to assemble them. Here's the piece. Here's our blank. And these are the pieces we're going to press in to make this work. Now we're going to use our pen press. Be nice to that guy. To make all this work. one of the first things we want to do, just lay out all of our pieces. What goes where? We know that's the refill. It can go in very last. Here's the pen clip. It's going to go here. This guy here is the cap coupler. Matches to the picture. So nice. The other place that you buy them from, they don't always have this. You gotta kind of search for what goes where. Here is my click mechanism. That's going to go on the outside end. It screws on. It doesn't press on. All right, now this front end here, we've got our the tip of it, the knurled tip. This guy here will press in, and then the very tip will screw on to here, and then we have the spring for the refill for the pen. All right, let's get started with pressing this thing together. Here's our pen press. They do make these in another style too, where you can help disassemble these. So let's say, for example, I love this barrel so much, I want it to go on this pen. You can get one of these where it'll disassemble this pen, then you can press this back onto that. I haven't seen the need for that myself. I just build another pen, but you know, it gives me an excuse to hang out in the shop. All right, let's start with this guy. We could start on either end, but we'll start with him first. Important, look at your pen blank. Decide what you want to see. When you put this clip, this pocket clip on, it's going to cover up part of your grain. You're not going to be able to see that. So since this, to me, is probably one of the most prettiest parts of the pen, I want to be sure that when I press it on, it goes to a more, not as exciting part of the pen, somewhere in there. And then I'll press this into it. Matter of fact, let's just do this piece right now since we're talking about it. Let's get him in here where we know he'll fit. All right. I'm just going to hold him in here. I'm going to try to do this so you can see it. It makes it a little more difficult. And we're going to grab this arm. And we're just gently going to press this guy in nice and straight. And I'm going to double check because I'm a little nervous that guy is where I want it. And I'm going to move him just a little bit more away from that pretty spot. I want that real beautiful grain to show. All right, now I'm good to go. I'm going to gently press him in nice and square. When he seats in, he's in. He's done. It's not coming back out now. And we got this tip piece to go on. He's going to go on this end now, just like the instructions show right here. We've got to reel this guy back a little bit more. Get him nice and straight. And we're going to press him on. We're not making sure we haven't missed anything. We haven't. Press him on. Okay, he's on all the way, nice and tight. So we got the beginnings of our pen right here. Here's our tip. He just screws on. All right, looking good so far. We got our cap coupler, which is already on here, pressed on here. We need our click mechanism, but before we do that, let's go ahead and put our pen in here, our refill in here, along with the spring on the end of it. We've already got the white cap screwed on here. That's that, the extender. Important thing to note, when you replace these, you've got to be sure to use that cap extender over again. Slide him in here like that. Put this guy on here. Screw him down good and snug. Hopefully. Come on, baby. There we go. Oh, we got our pen. Click. Yeah, and that looks nice. I like that angle. It looks real good. I'm not sticking out too far, and I'm not too far in. I'll zoom up on that in a second. And my click mechanism works really well, and that is one beautiful, beautiful pen. Zoom in on this. Actually, I'll just bring it up to the camera. There we go. Let's take a look at that guy. All said and done, beautiful right through there. Click mechanism works very, very smoothly. She's just a beautiful pen all the way around. There we go. That's what you're after. Have fun.